When we first bought this land, we anticipated about a year to build a house. We're 3 years down the track and we're only starting the foundation, so building, huh?
So after 3 years of planning, we're finally here getting ready to put in the foundations for Agape. It's taken an extremely long amount of time, patience and waiting to get here, but we reckon it's going to be worth it. Agape is going to be one of those places that is one of a kind, and it's a great place to spend family time, weddings, corporate retreats, and do all the things in an environment that we reckon is second to none. On this site, we've actually had quite a few problems or issues getting here, just because of the access is one of the things we've spoken about a few times in the past, but it's been such a problem for us to get up here because we're about 1 kilometre from the road. And to get concrete in, you need to be able to have basically safe passage for those trucks because they weigh a lot. And if it's raining and they slip, they can end up in the creek like I've almost done before. But I think we're getting very close now. The road's almost in. We've had a few bouts of really crazy weather and everything seems to be holding together right now. So after 2 to 3 days of dry, we can have access again. So that means that we can get all the formwork in and then actually pour. So that's been a really good outcome from this so far, but it's taken a long time. Like since we started working on this road and these earthworks is probably, December last year. So we're already 6 months in with a couple more months probably to go, but it's just because the site is so big. So today we're going to walk around with Neil and understand how the screw piers work, because we're on a reactive surface here and our soil expands and contracts because it is clay based and it's also been filled, which means we've taken from the back, brought it to the front to create a level surface. But with that in mind, we needed to come up with a solution that would support this massive house, which is crazy, and screw piers has been the go-to. So Neil's going to talk us through that and we're also going to go have a look at all the rest of the foundations.
Earlier in the excavation stage where we were cutting the bulk for this area up here, this is the driveway, the house is over there, the second dwelling's down there, we've got some sheds and parking spaces here. The design we initially did, because we are quite close to the back boundary, we had a really big retaining wall, which in our budget was about $250,000 of retaining wall. As we got up here, we realised that probably wasn't necessary and it would have looked a lot more organic and natural to just batter the land. And these are the sort of things that we need to adapt when we're doing designs, that we kind of move things on the fly when we realise they're not necessary, and eliminating all that material, all that labour from the construction is obviously going to speed things up and save on the budget. So when things like underfloor heating and extra insulation and things like that come up, we've saved some money in the kitty to chuck it into things like that. So you can see behind me, it's a nice neat batter. There's already grass growing back on it, which cost us nothing. So the grass will grow back here. We'll introduce a little swale drain to divert the water so it doesn't come in and affect the house. And we think that's a bit of a win for the budget, and it's going to look good too. So because the cost of hydronic heating is in excess of 100,000 to do the 1,000 square meters or whatever we have to do of house, we're now considering the option whether we do the foam layer, because that's going to improve our thermal loads a lot. Do the foam layer, do the topping layer, install some of the piping to the critical areas, not everywhere, basically master bedroom, main living, hallway, so that we can have hydronic heating if we want it, because we don't get a second chance. If we pour the concrete, we're basically never going to have heating in the floor. And heating in the floor is the most efficient way to heat the house because it's an even heat that rises up. Obviously heat rises. So a lot of our projects we do that and it works really well. So we just don't want to miss the opportunity because of budget to not put it in the floor, because there's no going back. But obviously the heat pumps and the extra batteries and all of those huge costs that we need for that to all work, I guess we need to make that decision whether we put it in, and we can decide later if we add those things in the project, if we can find some money elsewhere.
One thing I reckon most people don't realise is how much work actually goes into the foundations. Like this, what we're standing next to here is a foundation for the bottom of a pool. And you can just see the amount of Rio that's gone in here to make sure that the concrete is solid and strong, and it's sitting straight on top of screw piers here, you can see as well. So this is really cool to see, especially at the scale, really interesting. Very excited to see this. So it's going to have a pool here, and then this is, I imagine, like a planter box, I think. But yeah, really awesome to see the work and the detail that actually goes into this. So Neil, tell us about insulating between a structural slab and a topping slab.
So we're at the stage of the job now where we're locking in our concreter, which is the biggest contractor on the entire job, the most important part of the job. And we're going back and forth with some really good guys and talking to them about their methodology and what they recommend and what they want to do for this project. And obviously we've had a lot to do with concrete as well. So we've got our opinions, the engineer's got his opinions, and we're basically all collaborating with the client to come up with the best solution for this project. But being an off-grid house, it's imperative that we use something that is really good for heat loadings and cooling loadings. So the options we have is just to polish the structural slab and put no hydronic heating through it, because obviously if we have no heating in it, it's going to be less energy used. However, we're in a pretty cold climate. Like, it's cold today, like I'm freezing. So we want this house to be comfortable to live in, and on a winter's morning, waking up in a house with concrete floors, we don't want it to feel uncomfortable and cold. So heating is probably a good option, but it's a massive cost. And not only is it a big cost for the heating, it's a big cost to power the heating, because we need bigger batteries, more solar, and it basically is this vicious cycle of money. So our clients obviously got a budget, an end budget that they can't go past. So we're trying to work out whether we just polish the structural slab and save some money, or we pour a structural slab and then we install a foam layer for insulation, which is going to increase the thermal mass, and the house is going to perform a lot better. So that foam layer is what we are pushing for, what we're recommending. But then once the foam layer goes on, we then have to do a topping slab, which adds about $100 to $150 per square metre to a massive house. So that's potentially a $100,000 decision. So our clients working out what's the best option and how we can rob Peter and pay Paul to afford to do it. So this is the most important part of the job, in my opinion, because this is basically where everything gets set out and the house gets put in its location. You can see here we've got our string lines. We get a surveyor to put all these in for us, so that I'm not trusting just my guys to get it right. We're basically getting the surveyor to check it. The architects will come out and check that everything's suiting the plan. The site manager will check it. The project managers will check it. And basically we go through every checkpoint to make sure the exact location for all of our pins and grid lines are in the right spot, so that at this point in the job, our structure can be done right. Because if we put a screw pile in the wrong spot and then pour a slab, and then a load point of the house is not directly over the screw pile, the engineer won't pass it, because it needs continuous load, and we don't want to be loading up the slab in areas that the engineer hasn't designed it to do. So it's so important that this stage of the job gets checked 10 times over that it's right. And then once we're all confident it's right, we pour the concrete, and the rest is pretty easy, in my opinion.
So because the slabs are so big, we're actually going to have to do this in multiple pours. This was also something very interesting to me. I didn't really realise, but we've got so much floor space here. Like, the garage is enormous, the main pavilion's very big, and we've got 2 wings that go across. We also got a secondary dwelling. So there's going to be quite a few concrete pours here, which is also obviously drives up the cost. But one of the choices we made was that we wanted to have polished concrete throughout. Now, with that being in mind, we have to be able to... So by opting for polished concrete floors, we needed to make sure that when the pours are done, in places where we're going to polish the structural slab, there needs to be paid a lot of attention to it, right? But in the big areas, we're actually opting for a topping slab. And what that basically means is that they pour the structural slab, let that dry, and then at the end of the job, they come back and add another pour, quite a thinner pour that they then polish, which means they have more control over it. It means the end result is a lot better. It does cost more money, but what we've actually opted for is just doing the pavilion and then the 2 big bedrooms in the main house. The rest of the place will just be polished structural slabs, because those are the big kind of showpiece areas. So we're going to do it there and then avoid having to do it across the whole house, obviously saving quite a lot of money. What's the alternatives to screw? What are the options in choosing screw?
So screw piles are one option. They're the option we really like, because they're really fast to install. They're really accurate. We can get a lot of accuracy on the pressure, so that the entire building can sit at the exact same pressure. So parts of the building, when you use different methods like concrete piers at times, there's different pressure. You don't actually know the pressure you're getting when you're drilling a hole into clay. And if they're all at certain depths and you don't hit rock. I don't really like concrete piers in a setting like this, because you don't really know if, half the house might be at 5,000 kPa, the other might be at 2,000, and you could get subsidence. So having them all at the exact same amount of pressure means that the exact same amount of force is holding up that house, which I think is a foolproof option. I think these are rated to last 90 years with the thickness of steel, and that's an engineer saying that, so you could probably put some tacks on top.
So tell us how the screw piers work.
Okay, so we're up here on the house slab. This is the main living section where we're standing now, and this is our screw piles. So you can see we got rained out, so they got this completed. The rain hit and they no longer could get access up the road. So we've stopped work on this and we're going to come back to it. But basically what these do is they screw down, and the machine, as they're screwing them down, has a reader of the KPA, the pressure. And as soon as it hits a certain level of pressure, the engineer specifies what level they need to get to. As soon as it hits that pressure, they stop screwing. So you can see they're all at different heights. So that means they've hit that pressure at that height. So basically we then get a laser level and we mark them and cut them all to that height. And then we put our reinforcement steel for the house slab into the top head of the pier. And basically the house loads on those piers. The reason we're doing them is because most of the ground that we're standing on has been land that we've pulled across from over there. So it's not actually Venom soil that's been here forever. We've put this here, so effectively it hasn't been properly compacted. I mean, we've compacted each layer as best we can as we go, but we still don't trust that this isn't going to move up and down. And because we've got a bit of clay in the soil, it's highly reactive, so it can expand and it can contract, and we don't want that to affect the structure. So these little screw piles are very important, and they're basically going to make the house stay at a perfect straight level forever.